All right, looks like we are live. Hello guys, Bart Johnson here. And once again, it is that time, Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, which means it's time for me to go live and hang out with you guys. Last week, we did our first live broadcast from down here in my studio, which is where I usually record videos, my pre-recorded and edited videos, as opposed to up in my edit suite, if you will. And I kind of liked it. So I figured we would use this space again. So I got everything all set up, and hopefully today goes a little bit smoother than it did last week. I had some technical difficulties, as with any new thing that you try out, but I think we're all ironed out for today. And that's a good thing too, because we've got something really exciting today. Today we're going to be taking a look at this guy right here. This is the Aputure ALMX light. It was announced some time ago. It has been released. I supposedly have a review unit coming, but couldn't wait. We needed some for a project that I'm leaving for this week, so I managed to find somewhere on Amazon a store that had them in stock, very limited stock. Managed to get it here, and I want to open it with you guys, and I want to take a look at this little light for the first time. I've seen the prototypes, but I haven't seen the actual production unit. So yeah, we're gonna go get into that just a second, but first, just a little bit of housekeeping. If this is your first time here, welcome guys. I appreciate you finding the channel and joining the live hangout. Please make sure you go ahead and click subscribe down there and click that notification bell so you can be notified every time I have either a live show or a pre-recorded video, gear review, whatever it may be coming out on this channel. I also do have something new that we're trying, which is a Discord server. It's kind of like a chat sort of outside of YouTube where you guys can chat with me even beyond just the live shows that we have on a weekly basis here on Saturdays. So there is a link to the description down below. So if you'd like to ask me questions, hang out, chat, share stuff, go ahead and join that down there, guys. It's something new that I'm trying out. So let's see if we can get some good discussions going on in there. All right. With all of that out of the way, we're going to dive right into what you came here for, which is the Aperture MX light. So let's go ahead and let's take a quick peek here. So here is the box that it came in. Oh wait, what am I thinking here? I got one more very important piece of housekeeping before we go into this. This show's live, guys. So the beauty of live is that you guys can chat and hang out with me while we're here. And so I have the ability to, give me just 1 second. I don't have my switcher down here, so I gotta do it manually. Let's get our live chat, boom. There we go. We got our live chat up here on the screen. So if you guys want to ask questions or comment along the way, you'll get your name and your comment up here, and I'll be answering it as we go along. Let's take a quick peek at that actually as we get started here. Looks like we've got a few people in here. Donde está la biblioteca? What was that from? Deadpool 2, right? I just watched that, so that's the only reason that I know that reference. But as of for here, I'm not sure where the library is locally here in Maryland, so can't help you there, but thank you for joining. We've got Zach8133 saying, excited to see the light. Okay, well, I won't keep you in suspense much longer. Let's get into ripping this thing open. I'm really not a big fan of unboxings usually, but you know what? We're gonna do it. We're gonna succumb to it, and we're gonna go ahead and do it. So, like I said, this is the Aperture ALMX light. It is the bigger brother to their M9 light, which they've had for a while, which is their credit card size little LED light. I have a few of those. I absolutely love those. I'll actually break one out after we get this guy out and set up so we can sort of compare the two, just take a quick look at them. But, you know, nothing fancy about the box. This one, I promise you I haven't opened it, but the seals are actually cracked on this one already. But I didn't do it, I promise. So let's go real quick to our overhead view. This will be our sort of unboxing cam for today. So here we go, guys. We'll pop this guy open, because nobody likes to talk about a brown box. Wow, snug fit there, Aperture. Come on, come on, we're live here. People are waiting. Goodness gracious. There we go. That's how you know the show is live, guys. Normally I would have just cut that out and it would have been magically open. But here we go. So we've got all sorts of paperwork, Aperture. Nobody really watches or reads all that stuff. It's a light, right? We turn it on and off, and everything else we can figure out. So let's move that away. So the first thing we've got here is we have this nice little carrying pouch. So it's got kind of a faux leather here on the back, and it's got like a honeycomb kind of mesh here on the top. Zippered. Open it up, see if you guys can see in there. It's got a few pockets right here and another whole side thing for accessories. Sorry if you guys can't really see in there, but that's nice that it comes with that. All right, now we got a lot of stuff happening in here. So we have a bag full of diffusers and looks like some Velcro, various pieces of Velcro there. So I'll dive into this in a second. What do we got in here? Here we have a USB, let me switch to camera 2 here. So we have a USB type A to USB-C plug here. So this is going to be for charging the light. So it has a USB-C port on it to charge it. So there's that. Because that's one of the things about this light that's nice. Let me go to camera 1. Yeah, that's one of the things that's nice about this light, similar to the M9, is that the battery is built in, so you don't have to worry about slapping batteries on it and all of that. You just got to make sure that you keep it charged. But you know, when you have a light as small as this, you don't want to double its size by slapping a big battery on the back of it. So the battery's built in. You just need to make sure that you keep that sucker charged before you go out. So let's go back to our overhead here and see what else we got in here. All right, so this is a bag of colored rubber bands. There are 2 rubber bands. They're actually, they say www.aputure.com on there. And I had to ask them what these were about, just so that I could inform you guys. And apparently these are sort of a solution for kind of bungee tying or attaching the light to various things. So I'm not sure how much mileage you're gonna get out of these. But they're an option and they're in there. If anything, you can, I don't know, bundle some cables together with some Aputure branding there. So we'll go ahead and set those aside. I know we're dancing around everything but the light, but I promise we'll get to it. So here we have one of those Aputure little ball heads. Let's go to camera 2 here. So this is the ball head that if you've ordered some of their other lights, like the Mini 20s and stuff like that, they do provide you a ball head. It's decent quality, you know, it is all metal, has a little ability to attach either to a hot shoe or it has a 3/8 thread right there. And actually, where did it go? There was another piece of this, there it is. In here they have a little bushing that is 3/8 to 1/4-20, so you can put that in there and make this a 1/4-20. So you've got a quick way to mount it right there. And last but not least, guys, I won't keep you in too much suspense here. What do I do with this bag? Screw it, toss the bag off. We've got included candy. I'm kidding, of course, this is not candy. I'm sure all of you know that, but just as a disclaimer to protect myself, don't eat this. Just the silica to absorb moisture. But here we go. And finally, we have the light. Wow, that guy's hefty. The difference is this one is made of like aircraft grade aluminum as opposed to the M9, which was made of plastic, and you can feel it. I mean, this guy is heavy. So let's go ahead and rip this guy out of here. You know what, let's get this box. We'll just toss it on the floor, get it out of the way. So here we go, guys. We have let me give it the full attention here. Here we have the AL-MX light from Aputure. So like I said, all this aircraft grade aluminum. So aircraft grade aluminum on the back here. On the bottom here, we have a metal 1/4-20 mounting point. That's the only mounting point on it. So it's all metal, and even this black part is all metal. This thing's really hefty. We have controls here along the top. So one of the nice things is this is a bicolor light. Unlike the M9, you had to throw different gels on it to change the color. This is bicolor, so there are color adjustments. You can switch it between color, temperature, and dimming. So these buttons double for dimming and color adjustment. You have a battery indicator, and it looks like a power switch that is currently taped. So it has this little thing, it says please remove. I guess I don't want it turning on while it's in transport, so we'll go ahead and get that off. Let's just stick that to that bag there. But there we go. Let's go ahead and see if it comes with a charge. Turn it on. Oh, yes indeed it does. And we can see here we have a 4-bar battery indicator right there telling us how charged up that internal battery is. So let's go to our overhead here. Come on, switch. There we go. So that is the light real quick in a nutshell, guys. So like I said, this is a bicolor light. Obviously right now it's very warm. So if we switch this little toggle switch here from dimming over to color temperature, I know I don't have a super close up on this, but it's right there. Let's see if I can zoom in on it for you guys. And let's get our focus. So there we go. So now you can see a little bit better. We have color temperature and dimming. You just switch this dial back and forth and that'll control what these buttons do. So for color temperature, we have warm. Looks like we're probably all the way towards 3200 warm on those. And then we go to cool and we have a few steps to take us all the way to daylight balanced right there. Switch it to dimming and these have a plus and minus sort of. It's like a fully lit sun and a dimmer sun, so I guess this one dims it down. Am I at its lowest? Good Lord. And up. Holy smokes, look at that. So yeah, it has, I think they said it has 6 steps of dimming, but man, this thing gets pretty bright. Battery indicator up here, looks like it came with the charge, probably not fully charged, so there is that right there. All right, so let's shut this off. I'm gonna zoom this back out so we can see a little bit more of what we've got going on here. Let me just adjust our focus real quick. There we go. All right, and let's go back to camera 1. So there you go, guys. That is just a real quick, we're not done yet, but real quick just unboxing of what you get with this light. It has the charging port on one side, nothing on the other sides except across the top there. It has all of your controls. And so let's take a look at the actual face of this thing and the LEDs. I saw we have a chat coming in from Andre, says how much does it cost? So the retail price for this is $149. So it's not a super cheap light, but it is extremely powerful. You can get the M9s, the previous model, for like $49, $45, but this guy packs a lot more punch, and the fact that it is bicolor is awesome as well. So it is $149. On Amazon you can find some other sellers who have it like more or less, but you end up sort of, even with the cheaper ones, you end up paying like an extra 20 bucks in shipping, so it ends up being the same price. I do have links down in the description below, guys, to both this light and the younger brother, the M9, that we'll pull out in a little bit. So that if you do want to go ahead and pick it up, I put a link to the actual seller that I purchased this from, which was Gear, I believe, and they not only had it in stock, but got it here really quick. And so I ordered them maybe like 2 days ago, and it got here. And I say them because, yes, I ordered 2 of them. So, but yeah, so $149 is usually the price that you're looking at for them. So let's go ahead and let's take a peek at the light itself here. So similar to the M9, you know what? Let's stop talking about the M9 and let's just bring it out here. So let me get, this right here is the little brother, the M9 in its little pouch. As you can see, the MX pouch is a lot bigger. So we'll go ahead and see how that fits in there. But here is the M9. Let me get these pouches out of the way. So this is the M9. The previous model, and this is the MX. So in size, the MX is a little bit bigger, not by much, but it is definitely thicker. If you go ahead and take a look at these, you can see the MX has this giant heat sink on the back, and basically it's just about double the width of the M9. So the M9 was a very similar light, like I said, not bicolor, but really simple. Turn it on, and you have a couple steps of dimming, and that was pretty much all it did. So it goes a lot dimmer, but at its brightest, it almost looks like, turn this guy on. At its brightest, it's looking like it's almost the same as the MX at its dimmest. So this thing obviously has a lot more power. Let's go ahead and crank that up. So I know they're both overexposed, but if you take a look, this thing is putting off a lot more than the M9. Not a scientific test here by any means, guys, but just a real quick to show you there. So let's take a look at why that is happening. So with our M9 here, you know what? I'm actually going to zoom back in so that we can see. With our M9 here, it has this little diffusion filter that uses these magnets to stick onto the front. The MX has the same kind of deal. Let's go ahead and pull that off, and you can see the M9 named 9 because it has 9 little LEDs on here. Well, let's take a look at the MX. Again, it has a diffusion filter with these 4 magnetic attachments here. Pull it off, and there is a lot more LEDs on this. I'm not sure of the actual count, but there are a lot more. And they are also alternating between daylight and tungsten because this is a bicolor light, so it'll use both sets to kind of mix and get those middle color temperatures. Or if you're all the way at daylight, you'll get all the daylight ones. All the way at tungsten, you'll get all the tungsten ones. But there you can see a lot more LEDs, a lot more light, probably a lot more power and heat, which is why it has this this heat sink across the back here, similar to their other light, the Tri-8 light, which I have and I'm actually using in my background. So my background light, it's down there on the floor, you can't see it, but that is the Aputure Tri-8. I do have a full review of the Tri-8, which is a bigger LED panel, but similar to this in terms of its build with that aircraft grade aluminum. And I'll put a link down in the description below, guys, if you want to go ahead and check that video out. So before we go into this a little bit more, let's see what the chat is doing here. Trevor, good to see you, man. It's been a while. Good to see you in here. Being that small, you'd think the light would be harsh to work with, almost like a flashlight. So I haven't actually used it yet. We are doing a project where I'm going to be using, like I said, I got 2 of these, and I'm going to be using them as on camera for some run and gun stuff that we have to do. And I'm also going to be using them similar to the way I used to use the M9. I'm going to use them to light interiors of cars when we do like a driving at night and we need to do some like soundbite interview stuff in there. So yeah, I'm going to see how harsh it actually is, because yeah, it is a small source. So with lighting, as you guys know, basically to soften light, you need to make it a bigger light source. And so smaller sources are very harsh. Think of like the sun. While the sun is huge, it is actually just a tiny point, a tiny dot in the sky. And so it acts like a teeny tiny source. And that's why our shadows are so harsh and defined. But if you have a light and you add something like a softbox that makes it larger, what that does is, because it's a larger surface area of the light, it softens it and all that. This does come with some diffusers that we saw in the pack, so we'll take a look at those in a second and see just by eye kind of how they soften it up. But I'm sure that just bare like this, I'm sure you're right, I'm sure it is probably a very harsh light. But we will take a look at that. So that's a good point. Let me get back into our chat here. My remote sucks. But let's see what we got. So Andre's asking, can it run from an external battery pack? So I believe that it can. I have not tried that yet. So it does have the ability to, I believe, charge via USB-C while it is on. So if you did want a longer runtime, yes, you could plug that USB-C cable in, plug it into a battery pack for like your phone or something like that, or even if you have like a V-mount battery that has a USB connection, you should be able to do that and run this thing, because it'll charge the battery while it's also running. So yeah, short answer, yeah, I guess you can. I haven't tested the battery life of this thing. Like I said, I really did just get them. I really did just unbox this one in front of you. So maybe I'll do some tests down the line and see what kind of runtime we're getting out of these. I'm sure at full power, it probably won't last you like all day, but who knows? You know, it is pretty hefty. Feels like there's a beefy battery in there. It says there's an 18,000 milliamp hour battery in it. So I don't know how that translates, but let's take a peek here. And so Trevor says probably about half to 1 stop brighter. So you're talking about the light difference here. Unfortunately, the exposure on the overhead camera there is set pretty wide open. So when I turned them on, they were pretty blown out. But I'll do a test in a second where maybe I can shut some of these lights off and we can see how much illumination they do on me. So yeah, guys, if you have any further questions along the way, please do go ahead and pop them over here in the chat, and I am keeping an eye on that. Okay, so we went over lots more LEDs, M9, magnetic. So while this guy actually had other magnets set in for this magnetic plate to go in there, this guy actually just has screws. So it does stand off a little bit from the face. I don't think that really makes much of a difference, but you know, instead of magnets actually in the body, they're just screws. But it does magnetically clip on there. It's pretty good. It stays in place. It can shimmy around a little bit, but it's not going to fall off or anything like that. But what I want to take a look at now is let's get this M9 out of the way. We were talking about, we got this package of diffusion here and accessories. So let's take a peek at what we've got in here. All right, so we've got a few things. So we've got some Velcro Stickies. I'll talk about these in a second because I do have some things to say about the mounting options for this. Get that bag out of here. We do have 2 other strips of Velcro here, and these are going to be for this diffusion panel. So let's go ahead to our overhead. So these stickies here, you can see one, so they are double-sided. You've got 2 sides of the Velcro, so you can stick it to it. But what these are for is this one has a cutout that matches up with the USB-C port on here. So you would take this and you would stick this onto the side. You would stick this one onto the other side of the light. And then this is a big diffuser that you would stick the other matching piece of the Velcro on to the sides there. And then you can magnetically, or you can Velcro this onto the front of the light as some additional diffusion, and it moves it farther away from the light there. So not sure how effective that'll be, but it's an interesting idea. The other thing is, if we take this off, there are 2 different types of diffusion here. So this one, as you can see, is shiny, and this one's more of like a frost. It's kind of textured, and so it comes with 2 of these. So we'll have to see what the difference is between using this one versus this one. But one thing I did notice, these guys are stackable if you get the magnets lined up right. There we go. So now I actually have 2 layers of magnetic diffusion on the front of this. And so in theory, that should help you to soften it up quite a bit. Man, it's bright. Let's try and dim it down to its lowest. So yeah, it is getting a bit softer. So here it is with the diffusions on there. Let's take it off. Oh my goodness. And there you go. You can see with the diffusions off, even just the magnetic ones, it's getting blown out. So these cut a good bit of light out, but they do soften it very well. And then your distance, you're going to see. So let's try something a little bit different. So if I were like lighting myself with this, it's not terribly harsh, even with just these on there, so it's not bad. So let's shut off a few lights here. Before I do that, I'm gonna take a quick peek at our chat here. So Andre is asking, can you use a remote to control it like the LS ones and others? Unfortunately, no. So any of you guys who have used Aputure lights before know that they come with, actually I'm holding it right here, these handy little remotes that can control their Amaran lights, can control their LS1, their Lightstorm panels, can control the COB 300, the COB 120s. It can't control these little lights. I think, you know, just because of the size and the form factor, I don't think they were able to cram the guts for a radio receiver in there. So no, they are not controllable via remote, unfortunately. As spoiled as we all have become by Aputure giving us these remotes, this thing is blinding me. Let's shut it off for a second. As spoiled as we have become using these remotes for everything, no, this and the predecessor, the M9, are not remote controllable. So who knows? Maybe in you know, a M9 Pro or an MX Pro or something, they'll give us one with some remote controllability in there. Let's see here. Zach8133 says, I have a 20,000 milliamp hour battery that keeps my phone charged for like 4 days. So I'm leaning towards a very good runtime for the 18,000 built-in battery, possible 6 to 8 hours. Let me make sure I got that right. Nope, I did not. Not 18,000, 1,800. So a tenth of what you just said there. That was my bad. I'm glad I rechecked it. So just visual confirmation as well, guys. 1,800. I added a 0 to that when I spoke. So 1,800, not 18,000. That would be crazy if they fit an 18,000 in something this big. But if you attach that 20,000 to this, I'm sure you could run this sucker for days and days and days. Back to camera 1 here. So yeah, sorry about that, Zach. Trevor says, Aputure is really killing it in the lighting market. I 100% agree. Cameras are soaking up all the attention lately, but what Aputure has done is just incredible. Great lighting is more affordable now. Yeah, that is very true. I love Aputure lights. You're very correct that they're making pro-level stuff at relatively affordable prices. You know, this is $150 for this light, which isn't cheap. But you can get the M9 if you don't need all of the specs and features of this. You can pick up an M9 for $45. Link in the description down below where you can go and get those. I have a handful of them and I use them all the time. But yeah, Aputure's been making great lights. I'm lit by mostly Aputure lights right now. I have 2 of their panels right there. I have a Mini 20 giving me this little highlight thing there. So I love their lights as well. Trevor says, but the small footprint is part of the huge appeal of this light. You could put it in you could put like 4 in your pocket and light a small scene. So yeah, I agree. The footprint, this one is starting to get to the point where it is heavy. You know, if you slid this into your pocket, you would feel it. You know, it might be kind of feeling a little awkward weighing you down on one side versus the other. But yeah, the size, definitely, you can slip a whole bunch of these in there. These cases, I mean, think about just loading this case up with, or getting 3 of these cases. You could toss these in a carry-on bag, whatever you want, and you've got multiple lights with you at all times. And yeah, you know, these might be beefy enough that you could use them for an interview setup if you wanted to, if you had just a small quarters and you got to do a quick interview setup. Why not? While I mostly use the M9, the predecessor, as sort of like an accent lighting, like toss it in a plant or something in the back of an interview to kind of throw some light, or throw it on a car dashboard, or even take some tape and stick it to a wall where you just need a little hit of light. You know, this guy's a little bit heavier, maybe not quite as versatile, and I'm going to get into that in a second. But yeah, the form factor is one of the huge kickers of this. It's pretty awesome to have all this power in this little package. All right, so we've taken care of that. Where was I? Okay, we're gonna turn off some lights and we're gonna take a look at some brightness and see what we can see here. So let's kill a few of these lights. I'm gonna kill my overhead here, which doesn't have a remote, so give me 1 second. It's a non-Aputure light. All right. So there we go. I've killed all of my my front-facing lights here. Still got the background lit up. So let's start off with the Aperture M9. So we'll get it turned on. So there we go. Oh, like campfire stories there. So I think that's at its brightest. Let me see here. Okay, so here's the M9 at its brightest. Let me hold it the other way so it's not getting covered by the chat. It does have its diffuser on there. It is still pretty harsh. You can see the lights coming across here, across my nose. But if you put another piece of diffusion or something on there, that's not bad. So let's go ahead and shut this guy off. I can't see the controls, it's so dark. All right, now let's boot up our MX here. Ding. Okay, let's put it at its lowest power. Okay, so wow, okay, so this is it at its lowest power. And I do have both of the diffusers on there, so let's go ahead and just keep that one shiny diffuser on there. So this is at its lowest power. It's relatively soft. Not terrible. Let's crank it up a bit, and I will blind myself all for you guys. We'll crank it all the way up. Yeah, I think it has about 6 steps. So wow, yeah, a lot more light coming out of that. I don't even want to look at it. So I am on full daylight, so it's getting all those daylight ones. But yeah, that's pretty harsh. So let's try slapping the other diffusion filter on it. That cuts some out and softens it up a bit. So this is at max right there. Let's go ahead. I'm going to turn the chat off just so that we can see. So let's go to that. So I'm going to hold out the M9 at full power and the MX at full power with just one diffusion on it, just so we can see brightness. So this is the MX over here, guys. This is the M9 over here. Well, that's really hard to tell, isn't it? So M9, MX. Is the MX at full? Ow. Yeah, it is. Okay, so you can really see. So M9, MX. There you go. Yeah, and I think part of that is also the beam angle a little bit. Is a little bit different. Oh, I get some cool effects there. Anyway, okay, I'll stop playing there. Let's kick some. Let's shut these guys off. Oh my gosh. Well, actually, I want to show you one thing here. So before we do this, let me shut the M9 off. So here we have the MX. Now, one of the things that the MX has, not sure if it's a feature you'll use very much, but it has something called a boost mode. And so there's a button on here that for, I think, like maybe 60 seconds will increase it to like super high power. And makes it a lot brighter. Now, it's not something that's going to last for a long time. It's obviously going to drain your battery a lot faster. I think it lasts for like 60 seconds or so, but I think I have my thumb on the button. Let's hit the boost. Oh yeah, I just hit the boost and look at that. It is a lot brighter. I'm trying really hard not to look at it, so I shut the boost off, I think, and there's the boost on. So it may not look like much on camera, guys, but in person I am definitely seeing it. So boost is on, boost is off. You can kind of see it changing there. Boost is on and boost is off. So if you do have a case where you you need that extra power for whatever reason for 60 seconds, you've got the boost mode on this. So I'll come out of my witness protection mode here and kick some lights back on. 1 second, let me turn our overhead back on. All right, there we go. So we're back. Let me bring our chat back. Live chat. There we go. So what do we got in the live chat here? Let's see here. We had Trevor. Yeah, Trevor says, yeah, I think you could bring up a small scene with 4 of those and a couple small pieces of foam core. That's kind of sweet. Yeah, that's a good idea. With the power of these, you don't have to aim them directly at your source. I wish I had something to bounce off of down here, but I don't. But you're right. You can you could actually point it away and bounce it off of foam core and potentially use that as like a key light for an interview, because what that's doing is you're taking this small source of light, which we know is harsh. You know, smaller sources mean harsher light, and by bouncing it off of a larger object like a piece of foam core or something like that, you've now turned it into a much larger light source, which is softer. So it should have the power to bounce off of that, and basically you've made yourself a large light source with a tiny light and some foam core that when you arrive, you could just go to the hardware or craft store and pick that up. And you're good to go. You don't even have to take it home with you. Just leave the foam core behind. Who cares? What is it, like $1? So yeah, that's a very good point, Trevor. There's a lot of different ways to use this, and that would be interesting to try that out that way. Let's take a peek here. Trevor also says 2 on either side, 1 hair light, and 1 on the background. So that would be your 4-camera setup. You're talking about doing a key, a fill, a hair light, and a background light, yeah, you could do all of that with these four. That's very similar to the setup that I have going on right now. I have a key, I have a fill, I have a hair light hitting me sort of right here on the side, and I have a light hitting the background. So yeah, very traditional 4-light setup. This obviously I have an overhead coming down as well, but you wouldn't need that for an interview or something like that. So yeah, 4 lights for these. And maybe you could even get away throwing some of the cheaper M9s in the mix, and you could be off and running in a freaking backpack, man. So that would be awesome. Andre says, let's try the boost mode. So I'm glad I remembered about the boost mode. We did just try that, and it does make it quite a bit brighter. So I had it on max and then hit the boost mode, and it was pretty intense. I did not want to look into that. I'm actually still seeing those little, the pattern of those little LEDs in my lights, or those little LEDs in my eyes from doing that. So let's take a look at one thing that we haven't touched on yet, which is going to be mounting. So I'm going to switch back to our overhead here. So here we have this, the light here, and let's bring in the M9 for comparison. So the M9 did not have any mounting points anywhere on it, but what it did have, let me go into its little case here. Make sure these guys are out of the way. Sorry, it's getting all cluttered up over here, guys. But what it did have was this little bracket. If I can get it out of here. All right, so it had this little bracket, and what this bracket would do is attach onto here, and you kind of clamp it down. And then now, what you've got, if you can see, is you've got this, it has a hot shoe attachment on the bottom, and it has a 1/4-20, so you can mount this to anything. I've mounted this to tiny tripods, I've mounted it to like gorilla pods to tie it to stuff and whatever, but that was basically its main mounting thing. But another thing, because it was so lightweight, what I found myself doing a lot of the time, let's switch back here, is I would actually just take gaff tape and butterfly a piece of gaff tape, you know, you make kind of a roll of it, stick it to the back of this, and you could stick it to a wall, stick it to whatever you want. Because it was gaff tape, it wouldn't leave any residue or anything like that, and that would allow me to attach the M9, and I really like that. I don't think you're gonna be able to pull that off with the MX, and there's a few reasons. So, first of all, it is quite a bit heavier. I'm not sure of the actual weight specs, but it is quite a bit heavier. If you try to hold this up with tape, I think it would really start sagging and fall off on you guys. The other thing is, take a look at the back here. You know, it has these, let's take a peek. It has these ridges. And what that does is it reduces the surface area, the flat surface area on the back here. So if you stuck something like tape to it, it's not sticking to a nice flat surface. It's lost a whole lot of surface area to stick to, and you're not going to be able to stick it to stuff. Now, this does have the 1/4-20 here, which is a nice addition, which will allow you to use stuff like the ball head. So you can take the ball head and screw that in. You can attach it directly then to any other thing that you would want, either hot shoes or 1/4-20, or you know, you could probably find an adapter thing to put this on top of a light stand or whatever you want. But in terms of just mounting the actual light itself, we're very limited in options as compared to what we had with this flat surface on the back of the M9. I know a lot of people who like permanently put Velcro on the back of theirs, and so they can just carry Velcro with them and stick it. But what Aputure did give us here is they gave us these Velcro Stickies, similar to like what you get with a GoPro, where they have like the 3M GoPro mounts, except these are Velcro. And so, yeah, so you have 2 of these, and I guess the theory is that you would stick this to the back and then stick this to whatever you want to attach the light to, and you could Velcro it to it. Now, I have a few problems with this. One, we still have that problem with reduced surface area. So I know 3M makes really good adhesives, but we're still sticking to only the tops of these ridges. And while they don't seem to get hot while the light's in operation, you know, heat is the enemy of like sticky tape. So I don't know how well that would hold if it were to heat up or if you were in a warm environment. And the other thing is, whatever you stick this to, this is kind of permanent. So you're not going to be going in and sticking this to somebody's wall or something like that, like you would with a piece of gaff tape. So I don't know how useful these are going to be, and I kind of feel like I've lost the ability to really slap this thing wherever I want. Of course, with the quarter 20, there are tons of other rigging options and ways to get this thing into various places, but in terms of just real quick, reach into your grip bag, grab some tape, stick it on there and tape it to something, not really. I may find that in practice I'm wrong and I find a lot more ways to utilize it, but just something to keep in mind that the M9 is fantastic for that, but maybe the MX not so much. Aputure did try by giving us these rubber bands to, I guess, rubber band it to stuff like posts and whatnot, but you know, not necessarily the greatest solution in the world. So I am kind of sad to see that, and I'm not sure if I'll be using these 3M pads because, like I said, it's permanent and it's going to damage whatever you try and take it off of after doing that. So let's take a peek at our chat here, see what you guys are saying. Trevor's saying, oh, so we already hit that one. We tried the boost mode. Is it Philo? Would you try with all the lights off again and try with the MX and bounce it off the ceiling? Bounce it off the ceiling. Okay, yeah, I can try that. Let's do that in a sec here. So let's see, what do I need to do for that? So what I want you to know about my ceiling is it's like right here. Like I'm touching it. So it's maybe a foot above my head. But yeah, let's give that a shot. Let's shut our lights off. And let's try it as a bounce off the ceiling. I'm going to kill this overhead and we'll get the MX up. All right, so our overhead is off. You know what? Just for fun, let's kill our background there too. All right, so let's get the MX out. We're going to turn it away from us to turn it on. Well, away from me. Let's turn it to maximum brightness, but not boost mode. And I'm going to try and bounce it off of my ceiling. Okay, so this is, it's kind of hard for me to bounce it and angle it towards myself here. So I'm aiming it, as you can see. Let me turn the chat off for a sec. So here we go. So I'm aiming it up and bouncing it off the ceiling kind of down and back at myself. So it definitely softens everything up. It's hard because I'm bouncing it kind of at an angle and hoping for it to come back down at me. It would be better if I had it bouncing directly into a board and then bouncing back at me. And also, if you take a look, let's go to our overhead. I want to show you guys the beam angle. So the beam angle is pretty darn wide on this. So as I come around, you know, I'm starting to get like almost even beyond the thing. Some of that's bounce back, but here, let's take the diffuser off. There, you can see that beam angle really clear. Like that is close to 180 degrees there. So, you know, it's not super directional, but I'm wondering how much of that I'm getting is kind of spill off to the side of it. So this is fun. Good ideas, experimenting. So when I'm holding it up here, I'm wondering how much of this, maybe some of this harshness right here is actually spill, because I can see the side of it. It's kind of perpendicular to me, so some of that might be spill. But you can see up here on where I'm, you know, losing my hair and whatnot, receding hairline, you can see that there's a nice soft bounced light on that from there. So let me go ahead and shut this guy off and turn our regular lights back on and check out our chat. So let's get background, key, fill, and kick on my overhead. Give me just one sec, guys. All right, let's pull the chat back up. So that was a good question. You know, good quick test to see what we can do with bouncing that off of something. Like I said, these are kind of grayish drop ceiling panels, so I think with a true piece of foam core and getting the angle where you're blasting it directly into it and then back at you, I think you'll probably get some better results out of that there. So let me put my M9 stuff over here. Let's see what we got going on in the chat still. Devo Cut, my man Devin's in here. Good to see you, buddy. It's been a while. Do you know if you can give it constant power through the charger port, or does it burn too bright to keep charged through the USB? So we were talking about this earlier, actually. We were talking about it can You know what? Let me grab a USB battery pack real quick. I have one right there charging on the shelf, and we will go ahead and plug it in. We won't be able to run it until it's dead, but we'll at least be able to go ahead and run it because I believe it does run while drawing power from a USB battery pack. So let's go ahead and do that. Hang on. Over here. Okay, this will be pretty cool. All right, so real quick, let's go to our overhead, and I'm going to show you guys what I've got here and what we're going to do. So we have the light, and we have the USB-C port right here. Here I have a battery pack. The nice thing about this battery pack is that it will show me when it's actually in use. But on top of that, I have this USB tester here. Let me get all this clutter out of here. So let me move it so we can still see the chat window. So I have this USB tester here. What this will do is it'll show me exactly what the draw is coming out of this. So I'm going to plug this guy in first. This thing is booting up. So it tells me that it's 5.12 volts available, nothing being drawn right now. Let's go ahead, let's take the USB-A to USB-C cable. There we go. Get that wire tie out of here. I'll have to find that thing later. So let's plug this into the end here. I love this little tester. I'm going to plug it into the light. Okay, and there we go. So we are getting a draw. So it's charging right now off of this. So it's charging. Let's set her down this way. Set this up so you guys can see. So it is charging. This says it's charging, and our thing here says it's drawing 1.5 amps to charge. So this battery is capable of putting out like 2 amps out of each of those. So it's charging, but let's go ahead and kick this guy on and see if we get a change. Wow, look at that. Okay, so we are on. We're going to crank it to full power. So we're on, we're at full power, and it is still pulling from this battery. So it's actually pulling a little bit less. It's only drawing 1.2 amps. So I'm not sure if, you know, if it seems like it's keeping up with it. Like the output of this seems to be less energy than what it's drawing from this, because when we shut it off, it'll go back up to charging mode where it's like 1.7 amps again. So when it's on, it is indeed still pulling, but only pulling about 1.2. So looks like it is still charging, and you can run it off of a battery pack like that, no problem. So yeah, there we go. Good question. I'm glad I had that to pull that up. So let me go ahead and shut this guy off and get my crazy USB rig out of here. We'll pop it over to the side here. So let's see what we got here. Devin also says, with a beam angle that wide, looks like it would make a great on-camera light for documentary work when you don't have any time to do a proper sit-down interview. And that is exactly how I am going to be using it next week. I'm going to do a project in Ohio that's very run and gun. We're going to have to do a lot of ENG style where we're going to have a light on the camera. I didn't want something big. And this guy, yeah, with that wide beam angle means you're not going to be spotlighting somebody's face. It'll throw some light all over. And this is really tiny. It'll go on top of our tiny cameras. We're going to be shooting like FS5s and GH5s. So this is not a huge accessory to stick on top of that. So yeah, I'm going to get some firsthand experience with how these lights work in that type of environment. And yeah, I think they'll be perfect for it. I'm really looking forward to that. Philo says, thanks for the test. Appreciate your explanation for the beam angle. Really gave me a clear picture of what kind of usage or will this MX use. There you go. Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up to do the test off of the ceiling, because otherwise I wouldn't have even thought about spill coming off of the side of this guy for that beam angle. So thank you for your question. That's how we make sure to get good information out there, because these are the questions that people really have. I can come into a video with my own questions, but doesn't mean that they're also the questions that you guys have. So that's awesome. Keep letting me know if you guys have any questions about this light, because I am coming down to about the end of what I had planned for this episode. But the last thing I will show you here is I want to take a look at the carrying pouch and just sort of pack everything up into it and see how that works out. So let's go ahead. Oh, we got one more question here. Vila says, does the MX give many gels? Is it really give us a benefit instead of buying an RGB light like the Yongnuo? So that's a good question. It does not come with any gels, and the reason is because it is bicolor. So while the M9, let's go to overhead. So while our M9 here, our M9 light came with, and these are still available and still awesome, guys. I don't want to discount or discredit these M9 lights in any way. I own a ton of them and I absolutely love them. But yeah, it came with these gels to sort of adjust the color temperature. So if you wanted it warmer, if you wanted to diffuse it a little bit more, if you wanted it to be cooler. So these were how you sort of adjusted the color temperature of it. But the MX is bicolor, so it does not come with any gels. You adjust the color and it changes which temperature LEDs it's using. Like I said, it's got rows of tungsten and rows of daylight, and so it mixes them to do that. So no gels come with this guy. If you did want to do effects, you certainly could. Let me pull that out. So you could, I guess, if you wanted to, say this was like a really blue gel, like you wanted some like stylized effects, you can put it there and sandwich it between the magnets. So you could do that if you wanted to, if you even had other colored gels like red and stuff like that, and you wanted to cut your own little sizes to put on here, you could do that. But the real benefits of this light are going to be its compact size and its power. More output, bicolor versatility, super compact, built-in battery. That's the highlights and the features of this light right here as compared to the M9 and as compared to a lot of other small LED lights out there. So it doesn't do RGB. You could do sort of faux RGB by putting gels on it, you know, for whatever color you wanted. But I haven't messed with any of the Yongnuo RGB lights or anything like that yet, so I can't say from personal experience whether one is more worth it than the other. But for right now, I think I'm gonna be pretty happy with this guy. You know, if you're looking for specifically RGB, this guy's not gonna, it isn't RGB. So there's no real comparison there, I guess. But good question. And yeah, okay, so that was that. So let's go ahead and take a look at packing this guy up real quick. Let's go to our overhead. Let's see, we got enough space. Yeah, we do. Okay, so M9, you can get out of there. So like I said, it comes with this nice little pouch, definitely a bigger pouch than the M9 one. This one's kind of just like a neoprene one with like 2 pockets that holds everything in there. You know, you drop the light in, you drop your little mount, pop it on there. It's got a little carabiner, you're good to go. Let me widen this shot up a little bit. Sorry, guys. Make sure we're in focus. There we go. But yeah, so this is a larger pouch. I guess because it does come with some larger accessories. So we'll start off with the light here. We open this up, take a peek in there. Not sure how much you can see, but there are 2 little pockets here. So I'll take the light, plop it in one of those little pockets. There's a little divider right here. I would probably take my ball head and let me get my USB cable back, you know, take that guy, fold him up just so that you have absolutely everything on the road, shove that in that pocket, and then we have all of these diffusers. Like I said, you would add the Velcro onto those and onto the side of the light, but all these diffusers and stuff, there is another sleeve off to the side here, so even this guy fits in there nicely. We've got our, if you ever wanted to use them, our 3M Velcro pads, and then our little rubber bands, in theory for mounting. Pop them in there. This is not the prettiest job, but you know. So everything that came in that box is now sealed up in here, nice and padded. Go ahead, zip it up, you're good to go. Has a carabiner on here if you want to clip it to a backpack or something like that. So you can go ahead and easily transport it around, and there you go. And if you got multiple of these, toss a few of them in a backpack, in your luggage, whatever, and you're good to go. That is your whole kit for a little light right there. All right, so let's come back to here. So I think that is about it, guys. That's all I got. If you guys have any other questions, please go ahead and let me know. We're getting to just under an hour on this show, which is usually where I cut it off and go and enjoy the rest of my Saturday. Yeah, I'll stick around and see if you guys have any other questions about either the MX or even if you want to talk about the older M9, because I absolutely love the M9s as well. I am really happy to add the MX to my arsenal. One thing I will say is that this is not actually mine. This is, I ordered a pair of these for this project that's coming up for work. It is for the company that I work for, so these are theirs, not mine, but I took advantage of having one in my possession. But I did go ahead and also decide, you know what, I need to have one, so I ordered one for myself as well from that same Amazon seller. There is a link down in the description below, so you guys can go ahead and pick that up. But mine should be here on Monday, I believe. So I will have one of these in my arsenal, and probably in the near future, depending on how it goes working with them, I will probably pick up several more just because of their size, their versatility, and all of that. That's awesome. So let's see what we got here in the chat. Andre says, very good hands-on, very professional. Thanks. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. This is something that, Aputure announced, and everybody was in a frenzy over this and the F7, which I can't find that one anywhere. But, when I got my hands on it, I figured, you know what, this would be a cool thing to hang out on a Saturday and take a first look at it. Obviously, these tests were not scientific. I don't have specifics for exact beam angle in degrees or lux for its output and stuff like that. You can find some of that stuff on the Aperture website. So if you go to their store and look up the MX, they'll have a spec sheet with all that stuff on there. But I basically just wanted to open it up and take a look at it with you guys and kind of hang out a little bit and see how it works with the M9. Who knows? I may do a more in-depth review of it in the future after some use. Maybe if I find some creative ways to mount it, and maybe if I have some success with those Velcro pads, and maybe I'll do an actual another revisit of this light and let you guys know what I think of it. But if it's anything like the M9, I know I'm going to be pretty darn happy with it because I've been loving this light for the past year or more, and like I said, I've got a bunch of them. But if you want to see my thoughts after a few months or whenever it may be about the MX, the only way to get notified about that is if you go ahead and subscribe to the channel and make sure to click that notification bell. See what I did there? So yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. I really appreciate you guys coming and hanging out, subscribing to the channel. Always helps. And I always keep trying to put out good content for you guys to keep you coming back. So you got to click that bell, and you'll know whenever I got something coming your way. So let's see if we got anything else. Doesn't look like it. Looks like we are going to go ahead and close this one up. So thanks again to all of you who joined live and asked questions and hung out. You guys have been awesome today. Hopefully I was able to answer any questions you had about the Aperture MX. If you guys are interested in purchasing one of those, I've said it several times, but I'll say it again. There is a link in the description down below. It is an Amazon affiliate link, which means that if you use that link to purchase it, it doesn't cost you anything, but I get a small kickback percentage for sending you guys there, and that helps to keep this channel going, so I really appreciate that. And if you're not ready to drop the full $150 on the MX yet, and instead you'd rather just drop about 45 bucks and check out the M9, I have a link to that one down below. Same deal, affiliate link. You get a light, I get a little something to help keep the channel going. So there's that. And I'll mention it just once again here at the end, guys. We do have that new Discord server. It's sort of a 24/7 chat, if you will. So if you want to chat with me and share stuff and ask questions beyond the format of just our Saturday live shows and discussing here in the chat, make sure to go ahead and click that link and join that Discord server. There's not a whole lot on there right now. It's just something that I'm starting up to kind of check out. But I'm going to try and share more stuff on there and monitor it. So if if you guys do have questions and it doesn't happen to be 1 p.m. on a Saturday, you can pop it in there and I'll answer it and we can hang out and chat. So again, link to that's down in the description down below. Something new we're trying out. I think it'd be a cool way to engage with you guys. But anyway, I have rambled on about all that stuff way too much, so I'm going to let you guys go. Unfortunately, I will not be live next Saturday or the Saturday after that. So I mentioned I have this project coming up that I picked these lights up for. I'm leaving for it on Tuesday, and I am going to be coming back 2 Saturdays from now. So 2 weeks from today I'll be coming back, which means I'm going to miss 2 live shows. So I'm really